Imagine stumbling across a guidebook, right, that claims to hold the literal mathematical formulas for transcending time.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So you open the cover, you're eager to learn the secrets of the universe, and the very first thing you see is this massive warning label.
Right.
Essentially says, if you haven't lived in our isolated commune for 2 years, put this down immediately. Reading this will destroy your life.
It is such an incredibly aggressive psychological filter to just slap at the start of a philosophical text.
Totally. Well, today's deep dive explores exactly what is inside that forbidden text. We're looking at a highly detailed, genuinely eccentric essay from 2013 by a writer named Zhu Feng titled Journey of Transcending Time and Space.
And our mission today is to, impartially explore the architecture of these ideas. We're going to extract the fascinating philosophical, pseudoscientific, and psychological insights from this highly guarded document.
Right, and examine how it radically challenges our everyday perception of time, space, and basically the human lifespan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we really have to address that barrier to entry first, because it frames everything that follows.
Oh, absolutely. So the author explicitly warns that this document is only for members who have lived in a specific communist community called the Lifechanyuan Second Home for over 2 years.
And you couldn't just casually live there either.
No, not at all. You had to have passed a labor test, repaid all debts from previous lifetimes, which is a whole other thing,
Right, yeah.
and completely severed all secular ties.
The rules go even further, actually. You must not have fallen into any emotional entanglements with anyone else in the community.
Yeah.
It demands just absolute detachment.
Wow. And if you don't meet those exact criteria, like if you are an outsider, like you listening to this right now, or, like the two of us, the author actually tells you to treat the text as total fabrication.
Yeah, he essentially says, I made it all up. It's nonsense. Do not take it seriously.
Which is wild. He warns that practicing its contents without that intense preparation will lead to a complete life imbalance, cause you to lose your mental focus, and possibly trap you in dangerous delusions.
Which is such a brilliant rhetorical trick, right?
Mm.
By telling the reader, you aren't ready for this, it will shatter your reality, he paradoxically makes the ideas seem incredibly potent.
Right. You instantly want to read it more.
Exactly. So it asks you to approach this text with a curious but critical eye. And if we look closely, there's this central paradigm tying all his theories together.
Okay, what is it?
The author treats reality and the human body essentially as programmable biological software. If you run the wrong code without the right hardware, the system crashes.
Oh.
And that is the delusion he's warning about.
Okay, let's look at the base code then. Because to understand why these practices are framed as so dangerous, we first need to establish his fundamental, completely mind-bending definition of time and space.
Yeah, he does not view time the way we do.
Yeah.
At all.
No. For us, time is a constant background ticking. But for Zhu Feng, time is basically a giant geographic treadmill.
Time, in this framework, is highly subjective and intrinsically linked to physical movement and geographic location.
Right.
He blends relativistic physics with a sort of spiritual literalism.
The text actually gives us literal mathematical formulas to back this up, which is fascinating. It claims that if you walk eastward at 465 meters per second, your day shrinks to 12 hours. But if you turn around and run westward at half the speed of Earth's rotation, which is about 233 meters per second, your day suddenly stretches out to 48 hours.
Right.
And if you somehow manage to run at the speed of light, 300,000 kilometers per second, time just disappears entirely.
Yeah, he's treating the rotation of the Earth not just as a way to measure a day, but as the literal generator of time itself.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let me push back on the physical reality of this for a second.
Sure for it.
If I just run west fast enough, does time actually slow down? Or am I just literally chasing the sunset and, tricking my own biological clock?
Right.
Because it sounds like if I get on a plane flying west from New York to LA, the author is saying I am literally experiencing a longer reality, not just changing time zones.
Well, see, he makes no distinction between the measurement of time and the fabric of time itself. In his view, time is not a fixed universal constant.
Okay.
It's entirely dependent on the speed and movement of matter. He uses another geographic example to explain how space dictates our physical exhaustion.
Oh, right, the equator thing.
Yeah. Think about the Earth spinning on its axis. People living near the equator travel roughly 40,000 kilometers in a day, just as the Earth rotates.
Right, because the planet is wider there.
Exactly. But someone standing exactly at the North or South Pole barely moves a meter, in that exact same 24-hour period.
Because they're basically just spinning in place on the axis.
You can actually visualize this. Imagine drawing a massive circle with people standing inside it.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
As the circle rotates, the people on the outer edge have to sprint just to keep up, while the people in the dead center barely have to shift their weight.
Wow. That's a great analogy.
So the text concludes that the closer you are to the center, the smaller the space, and therefore the easier life becomes. The further out you are, the more friction you experience, and the more exhausting existence is.
So the takeaway for you listening to this is that conventional routines literally doom us to a conventional death.
Yes, exactly.
The text argues that if we just accept the 24-hour cycle and live on the exhausting outer edge of the spinning circle, we're trapped by the friction of space. Breaking free of these conventional routines and changing your relationship to physical movement is the first step to transcending time.
So if time is intrinsically linked to physical movement, how does the friction of that movement wear down the human machine?
Right, how does this apply to the body?
Well, the author actually abandons theoretical physics here and dives straight into cellular biology to explain why we age.
And here's where it gets really interesting, but also a bit wild.
Yeah, buckle up.
The text shifts from planetary rotation to human cells. It claims that human cells naturally divide 50 times in a lifetime, and it says each division cycle lasts exactly 2.4 years.
Which caps a natural human life at 120 years.
Alrighty.
And this is actually a direct reference to the Hayflick limit in biology.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's the widely accepted concept that a normal human cell can only replicate and divide a finite number of times before the DNA degrades to a point where it just can no longer divide.
Oh, I've heard of this. The biological clock controlling that division is the telomere, right?
Exactly.
Which sits at the end of our chromosomes, kind of like the plastic tip on a shoelace. Every time a cell divides, that tip gets shorter.
Yep.
The text states that the ultimate goal of transcending time is to stop those telomeres from shortening, but the proposed solution is intense.
That's one word for it.
The text suggests that if our normal cells behaved like cancer cells, which somehow bypass that limit and divide indefinitely, humans could live as long as the sun and moon. Now, if you're listening to this on your commute right now, you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. Is he seriously telling us to emulate cancer?
It sounds completely crazy.
Right. Using a disease as the ultimate model for immortality, that feels like looking at a car whose brakes have failed and saying, look, this thing can drive forever.
Yeah, it's definitely a deeply counterintuitive biological leap and understandably jarring.
Totally.
But if we put aside our medical aversion for a second, right, and just look at the pure mechanics of what a cancer cell actually does, the author's logic becomes a bit clearer.
Okay, explain that.
He isn't advocating for illness. He's using cancer as a mechanical proof of concept. He's saying, look, the cellular machinery to bypass the 120-year limit already exists inside the human body.
Oh, I see.
He believes this leap to immortality is possible not by getting sick, but by actively manipulating our environment and our mindset to hack that same biological clock.
Okay, so he believes the environment dictates how fast the software runs. And he actually brings up a personal example from his time working in the Kilian Mountains at an altitude of nearly 4,000 meters.
Yeah, in that harsh, high-altitude environment, he noticed that the growth cycle of plants sped up dramatically.
Oh, right, because they had to rush through their entire life cycle before the brutal cold returned.
Exactly. So from this observation, he concludes that a harsher living environment makes time stretch painfully, forcing the biological clock to accelerate.
But it's not just physical geography, is it? He extends this to internal psychological stress as well.
Yep.
He brings up the historical figure Wuzixu, whose hair supposedly turned white overnight, just from the sheer anxiety of passing through a dangerous military checkpoint.
Right. It's that idea that stress literally ages you, which I think everyone can relate to.
For sure. But Suifeng takes it down to a literal chemical level.
He really does. He focuses specifically on the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus, which, regulate the body's endocrine system. The text argues that physical aging is governed entirely by the information we input into our systems. Words, thoughts, and emotions are not abstract concepts. They are treated as physical data.
Ah, it's the biological software paradigm again. Food, medicine, words, they're all just lines of code.
Exactly. Just as joyful news can instantly revive a person who has given up hope and is on the brink of death, a continuous feed of bad news, anxiety, or anger just crushes the spirit and accelerates cellular decay.
Wow.
A calm, peaceful mindset chemically alters the pituitary gland, preventing it from shrinking, which in turn slows the internal clock. The friction in the spinning circle is reduced.
Okay, so we know the data we need. We need peaceful, joyful inputs. But how do we rewrite our base code to guarantee we actually receive it?
That's the hard part.
Right, because it's easy to say just be peaceful, but it's incredibly hard to actually do when you're, I don't know, stuck in traffic or dealing with a stressful job. This brings us to his concept of restructuring.
Right. And restructuring is presented as a fundamental, almost alchemical change in a person's nature. It goes way beyond just trying to have a positive attitude.
It's described as literally rearranging your atoms.
Yes.
The text says bodily changes are essentially chemical reactions based on proximity. If you live with pigs, you become pig-like. If you live with celestials, you become a celestial.
I love that comparison.
It's basically like downloading a biological software update directly from your roommates.
It speaks to the immense, undeniable power of environment and community. The elements entering your body, the culture, the people, the diet, they determine the chemical changes that occur at a cellular level.
Right.
It's akin to grafting a pear branch onto an apple tree. The fundamental nature of the fruit changes based on what it's attached to.
Okay, and this is where the text gets incredibly relatable and honestly pretty funny.
Oh, the complaints section.
Yes. Because the author who is writing this grand cosmic treatise on transcending space and time and becoming an immortal being of light takes a moment to vent his deep, everyday frustration about communal living.
The gritty reality of running a utopian community inevitably clashes with the high-minded ideals, right?
Yeah, exactly. He complains extensively about certain members in the second home who have a low frequency.
Yeah.
He says he explains incredibly simple concepts to them over and over, like don't interfere with others' hearts or don't manage other people's affairs, and they just cannot grasp it.
It's so funny.
He's basically venting, like, I am trying to teach you how to become immortal, and you guys are still bickering over doing the dishes.
Right.
And he admits that guiding them is totally exhausting, which, ironically, actively accelerates his own aging and prevents him from transcending time.
Which is such a remarkably human moment. But it perfectly illustrates his core concept of vibrational frequency.
How so?
Well, he argues that high frequency means high energy and quick holographic thinking.
Wait, what does he mean by holographic thinking in this context?
So it's the understanding that everything is deeply interconnected. Instead of the cliché butterfly effect, think of it like striking a tuning fork in a room full of pianos.
Yeah, okay, I'm visualizing that.
A high-frequency person understands that their single vibration forces every corresponding string in the universe to resonate with them. They don't need to be micromanaged because they see the whole picture.
Right.
Someone with a low frequency, however, only acts when pushed. They're inert. They're like a heavy stone that only moves when you physically kick it.
So to restructure your atoms and elevate your frequency away from being that heavy stone, you need constant dynamic change to overcome human inertia.
Exactly.
He quotes this beautiful proverb in the text. Ask the canal how it stays so clear because it is fed by a source of living water.
Yeah, if a pond doesn't have new water flowing in, it stagnates, it grows algae, and it basically dies.
Yeah.
The human mind and cellular structure operate on the exact same principle.
Without fresh, high-frequency input, you biologically stagnate. And that leads to what I think is the ultimate time hack in the entire text.
Oh, the sage.
Yes, it's not about running west at 200 meters per second, and it's not about sitting in a freezing mountain. It's about who you talk to. The author says a single conversation with a sage like an enlightened master is worth 10 years of study.
It's a profound manipulation of time, if you think about it.
Because if you spend a decade struggling to understand a complex concept, toiling away, making mistakes, and a sage explains it to you in a single afternoon, you haven't just learned a new fact.
Right.
According to the logic of the text, you have literally transcended those 9 years and 364 days of time you would have otherwise wasted. You leaped across time and space by absorbing their software update.
Which brings us to the ultimate application of all this preparation, right?
Yeah.
Once you have raised your frequency, restructured your atoms by avoiding low-frequency environments, and leaped across time through wisdom, what exactly are you using this power to control? The future? Yes. The text argues you're no longer just floating passively through time. You are actively controlling the future itself.
And here, the author takes a pretty bold stance by explicitly disagreeing with Buddha.
He really goes for it.
He does. He points out that Buddha taught that the past mind cannot be grasped, the present mind cannot be grasped, and the future mind cannot be grasped. Basically, everything is impermanent and we should just let it go.
Right.
But Suofeng says this is a fundamental misunderstanding. He argues that while the present can only be experienced, the future absolutely must be seized.
He is advocating for extreme agency. You are not a leaf blowing in the wind. You are the one designing the wind.
I love that. So what does this actually look like? The text uses the example of planting a peach sapling.
Okay.
It says, if you understand the laws of the universe, you plant the sapling in good soil, and you can literally see the peaches that will grow 3 years later. You have grasped the future.
Yep.
But let me challenge this, because isn't that just basic gardening?
It totally sounds like it.
Right. Isn't that just long-term planning? How is planting a tree and knowing it will grow fruit an act of transcending space and time?
It absolutely sounds like basic gardening on the surface. But Xiufeng draws a hard line between predicting and seizing.
Okay, what's the difference?
A gardener predicts that a seed might grow if the weather holds and the bugs don't eat it. Xiufeng argues that by aligning your frequency with the orderly laws of the universe, you aren't waiting to see what happens.
You're locking it in.
Exactly. You are mathematically locking in the future reality. You're collapsing the probability. To understand how he thinks this works, we really have to look at his concept of the holographic universe.
Let's unpack that, because holographic universe sounds straight out of science fiction.
It does. Think of the universe like a massive piece of holographic film.
Okay.
If you take a standard printed photograph and cut it in half, you lose half the image.
Yeah, obviously.
But if you take a piece of holographic film and cut it in half, both halves still contain the entire three-dimensional image. It's just at a slightly lower resolution.
Oh, wow.
Every single piece contains the information of the whole.
So a single thought doesn't just stay trapped inside your skull.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Xiufeng is arguing that your brain isn't separate from the universe. It's a piece of the holographic film.
Right.
Therefore, your thought literally contains the blueprint of the future. Planting the tree isn't just a physical act. It is the physical manifestation of a thought that ripples out and forces the rest of the universe to align with it.
So by releasing a specific high-frequency intention, you lock in a specific reality. You seize the future before it physically arrives.
Exactly.
However, the text is also very careful to establish firm, logical boundaries around this power. It doesn't claim you can just imagine whatever you want and it'll magically appear like you're a wizard.
Right, there are rules.
Yeah, it actually acknowledges the famous grandfather paradox of time travel.
Oh, the classic paradox.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot travel back in time and kill your own grandfather.
Yeah.
Because if you did, you would never be born to travel back in time in the first place.
Right, and the author brings this paradox up to prove that time and space are not merely illusions in our minds.
Okay.
Some spiritual texts claim that physical reality is entirely fake, just a dream. But Suofeng says no. Time and space are real measurements of reality. There are physical laws that are unsurpassed.
He uses this wonderful metaphor of a turbulent river to illustrate this boundary.
Yeah, tell us about that.
He says that ignoring the existence of time and space makes it impossible to ever transcend them. If you want to cross a raging river, you don't just stand on the muddy bank, close your eyes, and pretend the river is an illusion.
Because if you do that and step in, you will drown immediately.
Exactly. You have to acknowledge the brutal reality of the current. You have to learn to swim or build a raft or construct a bridge.
You have to use the physical laws of the world to overcome the physical laws of the world.
You have to engage with the mechanics of the universe. Idealists who just imagine things and pretend the physical world doesn't exist will fail and drown.
Right.
Materialists who only see the physical mud and water and don't believe a bridge can be built will also fail.
So it requires a balance.
Yes. It requires this holographic thinking, understanding the rules, like the cellular telomeres, the rotational speeds, the vibrational frequencies, and using those specific rules to build your raft.
It has been such an incredible journey through this deeply eccentric, fascinating source material today.
It really has.
We started with the idea of reality as a programmable software, right? Looking at time as a geographic treadmill where moving against the Earth's rotation physically changes the length of a day.
Right. And then we moved into hacking our biological clocks, exploring the friction of our environment.
We saw how the input of joyful information literally preserves our cellular structure by protecting the pituitary gland, while anxiety and low-frequency environments basically just accelerate our decay.
Yeah. We explored the necessity of avoiding stagnation by constantly seeking living water to restructure our atoms, recognizing that our roommates and our communities are quite literally downloading updates into our biology.
I'm still thinking about that roommates analogy. And we examined the invaluable shortcut of learning from those wiser than us, the sneetches, to leap across decades of wasted time.
And finally, we arrived at the concept of actively grabbing the future rather than passively predicting it, using the holographic nature of the universe to lock in our realities while still respecting the turbulent river of physical laws.
And for you listening right now, even if you aren't living in a secluded commune,
Right.
and even if you aren't trying to physically hack yourselves to live for a million years, there is something deeply practically empowering about this framework.
Oh, completely.
The idea that the words you read, the media you consume, the emotions you let wash over you, and the people you surround yourself with are literally physically altering your lifespan.
It makes you realize that guarding your mindset isn't just a self-care buzzword. It is, according to this text, the literal manipulation of space and time itself.
It reframes every single interaction you have.
It really does. And it leaves us with a final, very profound thought to mull over.
Lay it on us.
The text insists that our past thoughts have shaped our present reality, and our present thoughts are physically shaping the future. Because the universe operates like that piece of holographic film. A single thought ripples through everything, locking in a tangible reality.
Right.
So if that mechanism is true, what exact future reality did the very first fleeting thought you had when you woke up this morning just lock into place for you?
Man, something to think about the next time you feel like chasing the sunset. Until next time, keep diving deep.